And there.
All right, welcome to our fourth meeting. This is a Tier 1 instruction follow-up meeting. And so this is about the visualization and quick write strategy that we've been implementing in our CTE rooms. And the reason we're doing this strategy once again is because they talk about Tier 1 strategies in PLCs for content, and let's just face it, CTE, we sort of don't get that information, and Ms. Perez sometimes doesn't get that information. So that's why we're doing this particular strategy. So I made a little come together statement today as resilient and worthy educators. We continue to work towards clarity, rigor, and belonging. Today we analyze our Tier 1 strategy data and decide our next strategic move. And either we continue to do our strategy, or we adapt our strategy, or we advance it into a new strategy. So right now, I have this slated for 30 minutes. We will most likely get out of here a little sooner. Our first essential question is, do we continue with the visualization, quick write, adapt it, or shift to a new strategy? So we've been looking through this. Let's just base this off of our data. Now, I know in my classes in engineering and robotics, I observed whenever I did my visualization, I would have the way it would look in my room is I'd ask the students, hey, today we need to do this. Can you either draft up what that looks like and then talk to me about your picture? And some people were able to draft it and other people were not. Oh, goodness gracious. He's in esports in 301.
He's in esports in 301.
Okay. Do I need to go get him? So I might.
Thank you.
Okay, they'll get it. Okay, anyhow, that's just part of what these meetings are about. So I observed this 110 out of 130 students. So what I did was I did a tally mark, and I just was like, okay, you can draw a picture exactly what your mind is saying that you're about to do. For our roller coasters, I asked them to make like a design. And so I was like, make your own creative version. I don't want you using the internet. I want you to create something crazy. And so we had different roller coasters that had jumps and different roller coasters that were insane, that would never exist in the real world. And that's what I needed. So we observed that in engineering. In my electronics, I had them try to figure out a circuit in their mind and then build it. And we saw that a lot more because they had actual pieces to play with. And so their visualization looked a little different than my others. Did any of y'all have success with y'all's? Ms. Perez, what was yours? I remember.
We did where I had them visualize. We went out and sat outside to where they could see the courts, the tennis courts, and they had to visualize a game that we could play. And so then after they did that, then they drew it out and explained it. And then later we went and played some of those games. And what it helped with was the new games helped with strategies. Each student gained a strategy for playing actual games. And then for highlighting something is that they continue to ask to play the games. So, so they were building on their tennis techniques.
That's awesome. So about what percentage were they 100% engaged, or were?
Oh, yes.
So we had 100 out of 100 on that one. Okay, that's not bad. How'd yours go?
Mine's good. I would have them visualize what a Google document or Google spreadsheet was going to look like. Like, can you tell me what do you think this is going to look like after I explain it? And then they would write down their notes, and then they would create it, and it worked a lot better because their mind was working. Mine was about, I'd say 85%.
Okay, all right.
We're still working on it. There's just big classes. In the smaller classes, it worked really well.
Sweet. And then an AV.
Excuse me. So we talk about the video that we're fixing to start.
Right.
And then I have them visualize in their head how they want their video to look.
Like a reel?
Like a reel in their head, yes. And then they draw out or write out their storyboard for the different scenes that they want in this video.
So how did their storyboards look? Were they complete, incomplete? How would you say that?
I would say about 90% were complete.
Okay, so 90%. And that's what kind of leads us to the next thing. I got a little note from one of my mentors, and they said that I needed to kind of like up how we get our data, you know? And so right now we're doing kind of like our visual responses, and we're using some data from the computer and some data from whether or not they drew it. And so I need to try to figure out like what is a good way to like pull the best data so that we can like make sure that, so one of the things that I'm trying to do is I'm working backwards from a check from understanding. And so I'll get like a Google form, and it'll have like 3 questions that I had to get right, you know? And so it might say, what is potential energy? And then I'll have multiple choice, and I'll say the roller coaster at the top, is this an example of potential or kinetic energy? And then I can get exact, they knew it. And what I like to do for differentiation reasons is let's just make this for the whole class, and I'll read them the question, and then they all have to answer it right then and there. And so, boom, there's no doubt that I'm gonna know whether or not they knew that. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so since I have small groups, I can really pinpoint that. But like, you know, in tennis, it might be more that you have to do an observation. You know what I'm saying? So is there any way to like do different data collection, or is that the best way to just do it?
Yeah, I was trying to think what you were saying that, and I'm like,
There's almost no way in a physical environment, right?
yeah, because we're it's actual hands-on doing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could do the techniques, but that, you know, that you just grow and build later. It's,
Mhm.
you know, it's not like, okay, well, today we're gonna learn how to do a forehand and everybody gets it 100%.
Right.
And so,
So like eventually you could do like, what does this look like? And they're hitting this way on a picture, and then, oh, that's a forehand, you know? You could do, but it's like, we're physical, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're gonna know. So I just wanna make sure that I have like, sort of like evidence that supports, you know, cause it's like, they don't want any vagueness, you know what I mean? And so I'm trying to figure out like how, there's not really a one size fits all. And that's what I'm getting at, you know? And it's not to put anyone on a spot or anything like that. It's really like genuinely, there's not a one size fits all. So these like observations and just kind of like, yep, you did it. That's really enough, I think, for getting that. And it's easy in tech apps and AV because you're gonna have a product. And it's either you did it or didn't do it based off kind of like a rubric, right?
Mm-hmm.
unless you do rules,
Yeah, rules. Roles or rules?
rules, R-U-L-E-S.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you know the rules?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Doing a little test and a little quiz on the rules.
Do you do that?
We do.
Oh, okay, so that can be like one we do in the future.
Mm-hmm.
That's perfect. So did anybody have surprising data? Like whenever you were like looking at it? Or did y'all kind of have this expected outcome?
I was surprised that some of them got it. Like,
And then there were some that were,
yeah, that some just didn't, like, either they don't want to do it or they're just not thinking through, or they think they can't get, I don't know, you know, it's kind of like, there's some that just don't want to do it, or some that just they're not connecting.
so like what's an encouraging thing that we can do?
I have actually helped them, another friend help them.
Okay, yeah.
And
peer
that
to
helps,
peer.
because sometimes peers can help them, like they feel like, okay, I can understand that because they explained it to me a little bit better. Or
Perfect.
differently.
And our kids, you know, some of them are difficult. I had one kid today and he just said, I'm not doing it. And I said, okay, no worries. And so I just started doing my work on the board as an I do, we do, you do. And as I was doing, I said, can y'all imagine what 103 times 102 is in your head? And their minds were just broken.
Mhm.
And then as I went through the different steps, and we got down to the final part, they were able to tell me the answer before I could even write the answer. And he, at the end of class, was trying to challenge everyone. Hey, y'all come to the board. I want to show you that I can beat you. And I was like, so we took a kid that was just out of bounds, and he turned into that kid that was, I want to show the world this. And so it was kind of like a patience test for me, you know what I mean? And some of his peers try to like get him on board, but I was like, man, sometimes we just gotta let these kids like let it play out. And once they see how easy something is, and then they're doing it, it's kind of like tennis too. They're like, this isn't that big a deal, you know? Well, and then sometimes it's like huge deal. So now my next thing is about the calibration and the samples. This is like part 3 on the list here. And so I have this little part where it says review 2 to 3 samples of strong student quick writes and identify characteristics of quality. And so like what I was gonna have us do, this is kind of like the part 2. So if, for example, we have our visualization, and then we're trying to get quick writes in there, right? And so like, what is a clear visualization reference? And one thing I was gonna connect this to is, I don't know if y'all had your STAR training, but something they're doing on the STAR training is, for ELLs, they're giving the pictures, remember?
Yes.
And I was thinking, do we do that as part of our differentiation for this? And so that was one of the things I was thinking about. And then trying to accurately connect that vocabulary to that picture. And I remember Miss Perez was like, during that, what was your question during that STAR training? You said something about...
Because they said I can translate the instructions to them. And so I was like, well then, maybe you're the one that brought it up. It's like, you can't look over their shoulder, so how are we giving them the instruction if I can't look over their shoulder? So I need some type of paper
reference, yeah.
to be able to tell them what to, because some of it didn't make sense, and so we were trying to clarify that.
So like on the instructions, we can read instructions, and I know this is kind of off, but they should have the instructions, I think, printed now in that booklet. And so I'm trying to think like of ways that we can tie the STAR and like district assessment to our visualization quick write idea. You see what I mean? Then we can connect it like holistically from core to elective. And that's where I'm kind of like taking this little transient piece, okay?
So this is something that I did and gave them. So like, you know, with the Google
Let's film
Docs,
that real quick.
this kind of helped because a lot of them don't understand and the colors and how they can go back and look at it. So this picture helped them understand the toolbar.
Oh, I love that because it has like a color connection, and students really do respond to that. And that's one of the ways that I do some color coordinating as well with my grouping. It just makes more sense. Let's see here. So developing on our as one of the steps. As far as like thinking about adapting or continuing or shifting, what do we think that we should stick where we're at, or do you think that we should adapt this, or do you think we should shift it? Any ideas? So what I did was I came up with this little strategy, and I just wanted us to look over it. It's an A, B, and C. So A is to continue, B is to adapt, and C is to shift. So let's just read through those real quick on our own for about 30 seconds. I don't want to hog all this space, you know.
I think we've already kind of covered some of that.
Okay.
Adapting for tennis, we kind of talked about that, and kind of maybe even shifting to where I may be headed, or was thinking I was going.
Okay, I like that. So we already are in an adaptive state in tennis, in a sense.
I've already adapted as well.
Okay, and talk to us about that adaptation.
I was having them do it on a storyboard template or just a blank piece of paper, and I transitioned, excuse me, I transitioned to a digital form. that's actually in the program that we use. And it's a storyboard where they can just pull down the videos that match similarly to what they are envisioning.
Perfect. Perfect. And then tech apps, is it
I think-
pretty straightforward?
Yeah,
or-
it's pretty, well, I'm just adapting as I go, because I think it depends on what projects. I think with coding, it's gonna work great. I
Mhm.
was a little struggle with trying to do the Google Sheets and the Google Docs and things, trying to figure out how to visualize that, but it worked. But I think next semester it's gonna work better with the coding that I'm gonna have to show them how to do.
Sure, for sure. Awesome. So I use, mine is highly adaptive. So what I like to do is start with that fundamental. And then when I have those kids that need that higher differentiation, then we're looking at adaptive. In fact, one of the electrical things is in the circuits is to, he has to envision, or she has to envision what the circuit looks like. And towards the end of it, they have to actually model that on a digital piece. But I had one student that was just not having it. They didn't want to do the tedious parts of moving it around. Didn't care. So took their notebook and I said, just draw it. And once they started drawing it, they said, well, I would have rather have drawn it, to begin with. And then they said that after they did their modeling, they could just match to their drawing and then adapt their drawing to as the correct drawing. So it's kind of like, I tried it, I failed. Here's the actual working piece. Now I'm gonna fix my drawing, you see?
Mhm.
And man, she really was like happy to have that adaptation because the Chromebook was not working for her and I felt her empathy, Okay. So that's good. We're all sort of using it. We started on that base and now we've adapted already. So sounds like that's the shift. But how do we keep, earlier I referenced that we have to, there's not a one size fits all. So this is like where the teacher is so valuable in that classroom for that adaptation piece, right? Okay.
On a kind of, because we're a little bit different in tennis and what I teach and my students are Spanish speakers, like half of them are. So I do have to adapt the fact that I also teach it in Spanish and the quiz will also be in Spanish and anything that we do in both languages.
Perfect.
Tennis.
So they're catching both of the languages.
Yeah.
That's so good. So I had these, on step number 5, which is where we're at, I have this tier 1 strategy progression, and this is like our teacher growth. And I wanted to kind of like figure out ways that we as teachers can kind of put those pieces in to help us to grow. And so we have, like, whenever we're doing, this is kind of like the cheat code that I think I alluded to you guys. When we're doing like our test for like our T-test, we're gonna be, foundational, developing, proficient, or advanced. And we sometimes just fall under proficient, and we want to try to figure out how we catch that next level, right? And so we want to get, past proficient to advanced or whatever it may be. And some teachers might fall into that developing area, especially our newer ones. And so especially at Cavazos, like you're new to Cavazos, we have a 3-year, year 3, you're at forever years, right? And so,
She says thanks a lot.
yeah, so
8 or 9.
8 or 9, and I'm only at like going on 7, I think. So, but we see a lot of new teachers, and so like we have to kind of scoop those up and try to help them get to that next level, and that's where this part is. So if we're taking a visualization quick write strategy to them, and we're coaching them along, and we hear their data, now what is it that we can do to help them get to that next level? Good Lord. That's me, I already know. So I started with foundational, where the teacher provides the visual, and then the students complete that quick write. And then developing is they generate their own and then they explain it in writing. And I think that's really like a big one that we're kind of stuck in. Proficient is where we can compare the visuals, and then we have the misconceptions and corrections. And then advanced is create the visuals, the quick write, and then they can connect it to that previous learning. And that's the piece where you're going to get to in your computer programming, especially in your loops and stuff like that. Okay. All right, so I have an optional strategy, but I'm not going to really go through that. We're on our last page, and this is our takeaways page. So this is where I need my scribe to really come in strong. So what are some, like based on what our little meeting was, we talked about data initially. We talked about our quick write strategy and adaptations. What is like our number one takeaway from this particular type of, and you can write it on that other paper if you want, that'll probably be easier because it's all kind of like laid out. I know tennis, I have a takeaway from tennis because the layer is more visual to seeing if they actually achieve the expectation, and that we have to be vigilant about documenting that, you know, on like, we're documenting usually in our head, but that data being checked off is like, I'm thinking of like a template where it's kind of like forehand, backhand, side steps, whatever, and you're just like, they did it, they didn't, or whatever, you know what I mean? Put them through like a, what's it called? Like an obstacle course, you know, and then you're just testing them or whatever, but before they go through it, it's kind of like, I know over here I'm going to do a forehand, over here I'm going to do a backhand. You see what I mean? And so they're kind of getting in their head before they even do it, you know, just an idea. So that's one of the that's just one of the thoughts I'm thinking right now. Do y'all have any takeaways, especially AV, since this is all about visualizing a reel? I think that's like super valuable.
It is. No, I don't have anything right now.
Okay.
I would just say just how we have to learn to adapt it per kid, per project, even per class sometimes, because it's how big you have your class and how small you have your class.
All right, awesome. And then, so we have our strategy improvements, and that's going to be, we're going to stay on that adaptive layer, I think. And then the next step, so back to what I was just kind of alluding to as far as being like proficient, developing, advancing. That's what this progression step, that's what I wanted to kind of build in. So like my visual vision for Cavazos, because, you know, Miss, the principal, where she said in our culture is to really, you know, make us an A, you know, it's all about high tier instruction, right? And one of the thoughts I had was, well, we have all these, you know, first year teachers, and how can we, the kind of core group, be able to communicate that to them, you see? So that's why this progression strategy is in place. So it's kind of like and I'm gonna try to have them connect it to previous learning, you see? So that's mine. If y'all had, which one do y'all think y'all are at? And that's on number 5.
Sorry, I gotta get it back up.
I think I'm still in developing, just trying to figure out what works better for projects in each class.
Yeah, for sure.
Same. I feel like I'm on developing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'll say it's developing.
All right, very good. And then, so we'll just kind of like, we're trying to get our students to explain thinking and writing. That's our developing step. And then, so the idea is to incorporate into my next lesson. So I gave Perez one, an obstacle course. Does anyone else have an idea based on what we, because these things kind of provoke thought, you know? So does anyone have any additional ideas they might try to incorporate this visualization quick write strategy?
I had one a minute ago and I already forgot it.
It's because of me.
It is.
I know, I was talking too much.
I think what I like to do is use slides and have them write down their steps, because I try to keep everything digitally.
Mm,
Yes.
So, and that's helping, that's why I've been using slides and Google Docs and going back and forth so they get familiar with both things. But I think slides, because they can use it every day and add their next slide, or what's their next vision. They could also put a picture on what they think it's gonna look like, or draw it.
sure.
So I think that's what I'm gonna do next.
All right, cool.
I'm
I
gonna
like
change
that.
mine to proficient.
Proficient. I thought that you were being modest there.
Because, the kids are already, cause I'm looking at compare visual and write, cause they're already teaching each other.
Right.
You know, they're already, I hear them all the time. Hey, do this. Hey, don't, make sure your racket's not like this. Move your racket. Even my sixth graders are teaching each other. So
Mhm.
they're already, you know, going beyond.
That's what you want, that facilitated learning model, right?
Mhm.
And, okay, well, that's awesome. And the last thing was, are there any questions or any supports that y'all need from me? Cause my next meeting, I'm gonna kind of tease it. What I wanna try to do is make a meeting where I'm just gonna have the script and then I don't like lead it, but I'm gonna let it facilitate itself. It's kind of a different version of a meeting. So we let our meeting people facilitate it, you know? And so I'm gonna try to organize it so we can just kind of round robin it of some sort, or maybe if y'all have ideas to give me, because sometimes I feel like I hear my voice too much. And so, anyhow, that's the end of this one. If y'all don't have any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.